pass over very shortly to Gunter. Now, Gunter's been, as Frank mentioned just before, Frank's been my informer on this a bit because, as he said, he's seen some of Gunter's stuff, and I know from having a chat with Gunter a couple of weeks ago that he's done quite a number of these presentations, and I did have a look at a small sample of what he would be doing, and it's some great photography, very interesting, from a part of the world that most of us know very little about. And I think tonight we're, amongst other countries, the subject will be steam in South America, 1979 to 98. And we'll be visiting Argentina, Chile, Paraguay, Uruguay, Brazil, Bolivia, and a bunch of other places. So anyway, look, that's enough of me. Gunter, welcome tonight. I'll now pass over to you to give your presentation. Here we go. It worked.
Okay.
Evening.
So I'm on. You can hear me clearly, please?
Yes, we can, and we can see you.
Okay. Yeah, to all my friends down under and in England and anywhere. Yeah, I'm Günther Oczko. I'm 67 years old, living in Cologne area, which is the far western part of Germany. And I started taking pictures when I was 13 years old in 1970 in March. In July, I went 4 weeks alone with Interrail across Germany and Austria. And the story was going on. In 74, I started going to Europe, 75 to Turkey, 78 to Indonesia, 79 to South America, and so on. So,
Günther, could I just interrupt you for a moment? I forgot to mute everybody. When I do that, you're going to get muted. So I'll just...
Okay.
In a moment, I'll just get you to unmute yourself. Right, I unmute now. There you go.
Okay, start again. You can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. All
okay.
good. Yeah,
yes.
that's good.
Okay, fine. Okay, then. So I guess you have heard what I said before.
Yes, that's all come through. I just had to sort something out. That's all.
Okay, and now let's start and see. Hope that the media will work. And hopefully I get a full screen picture for you.
Good job.
And okay, yeah, as our friend Mike said, lightweight. Yeah, this is a good start, which I choose for you. This is lightweight broad gauge in Chile and Hanomag from 1908, a typical German locomotive. And yeah, so this is we start with a broad gauge locomotive, but you will see mainly narrow gauge. But in order to give you a complete picture, what was available is from the late 70s to the late 90s, you will see also some broad gauge in Argentina, Chile. And so let's start to the next picture. I get support from my friends Neil Saxable and Thomas Rath. And here you see the big Gelsa locomotive, which Neil Saxable has photographed in the late 70s. And let's go to the map. So what we start first with Colombia and going to the south. In Colombia, we will mainly concentrate on the larger area around Bogota and beyond, and Girardot. Later we see Ecuador, the Guayaquil and Quito line, and we will see the center of Peru, the Huancavelica, Cusco, and Lake Titicaca. That's to give you a brief survey. So Colombia for first in 85 with friends. A couple of them are here now on this evening. We came to Bogota, and the idea was to see some steam around Bogota, museum locomotives. We will see Pasto Rio, a coal mining area, and most scenic, this area around Girardot, Espinal, near the Rio Magdalena, one of the biggest, or one of the very big rivers in Colombia. Yeah, so okay, most locomotives in Colombia looks like that in 85, because diesel salesmen were very successful. And here we are in the workshop in Girardot, and where many of these engines were overgrown. This is a Mikado, but I can't remember at the moment what engine it is in detail. But at least they had one or two engines which were still in regular service at Girardot, maybe some of the last in the whole country in 85. And this Baldwin example from 1928 was doing trip working, shunting in that area around Girardot, Flanders, and so on. Main target also, if you are in Girardot, is this huge river bridge over the Rio Magdalena, and the shuttle to the workshop to Flanders was team worked with number 47. Here in Bogota, we spent 2 days, and they had a museum service on a couple of days per week in 85. And here we see another Baldwin from 1947, number 76, on the return working from Nemocon back to Bogota. Let me say, I think it was 3 years. Yeah, 3 years later, in August 88, we were again in Bogota, and again visiting Girardot. At that time, there was no service, regular engine service left, but number 47 still alive, and with a very good charter from Dorage Travel, David Ibsen organized in Great Britain. We had another chance to witness number 47 on the area around Espinal. And also this area, even the small bridge, is pretty spectacular and give us a good chance to witness this locomotive with an authentic composition of coaches. Of course, again, we had another chance for the huge river bridge over the Rio Magdalena with number 47. Oh, sorry. Back in 85, I should include, because we on that time or chance we visit the Pasto Rio mines in northeast of Bogota, and by that time they still had some old tank engines and these very modern. I think it's 1953 from Tubisse in Belgium, locomotive number 5 on a coal train. Let's go to the Guayaquil and Quito. For me, probably one of my favorite railway lines in the world, and with a couple of visits done here. You see pictures between Quito, Riobamba, you pass the Chimborazo, the Devil's Nose around Alaus, Zibamba, and the flat line between Guayaquil and Bucay. In 96, on my 5th visit, with this incredible help from my friend David Ibsen, I could spend a week on charter trains for my friends. And here we had some street running scenes in Milagro on the way back from Bucay. Yeah, it was full life here. And despite this full life, we could even manage some aid or run past while I chased my friends through this 1 kilometer long sections in the downtown of Milagro, and we got some lovely shots. This locomotive, this number 11, is built in 1900 from Baldwin, as nearly all the locomotives were built from Baldwin, which were used on the Guayaquil and Quito line. A couple of years later, I think in 91, oh no, sorry, this is again in 96, my own charter. And here we have the town of Yaguachi. Yaguachi is pretty famous in Ecuador because there's an annual festival where a lot of people come to this town and have a religious festival. And to recreate the scene here, my train leaving Yaguachi was number 11 again, yes. Eight years earlier, we were, of course, again in 90, I think it's 91. And is it 91? Anyways, not important. Another regular train which bring the pilgrims or the friends of the Yaguachi festival back to Bucay and Guayaquil. And you see this, I would say, third class loaded train, or maybe it's even less than third class. There's a lot of people using every room what they can get on the train. It's a lousy picture, but I think the full load of passengers is quite interesting. A day later, we had even some sun, which is not normal in the lowlands around Guayaquil and Bucay. And here is again number 11 in 88 on a return working from Yaguachi. And again, full load of passengers. But even in 91, the service train, the market train from Duran via Bucay to Alausi was still steam-hauled. And they used all coaches they had available. And of course, plenty of room was also on the roof of the first freight wagon. And here I think we have number 45, built, of course, by Baldwin, some 8 kilometers before Alausi in a loop. Here we are again in 96 on my own charter, where we have the train leaving Riobamba for the way to Chimborazo and Urbina. Urbina was 3,600 meters, the highest railway station in Ecuador. And it runs through the streets in Riobamba. And again in 96, sorry, here the train is leaving Alausi with destination Riobamba for the day, and with some lovely clack for the photographers on the bridge at Alausi. Again, it was a dream in my life to have two trains to simulate or recreate the situation when the mixed train was running first, and the freight composition was follow the mixed train. And in 96, with the help of my friend David Ibbotson, I could even realize such scenes here. We are at the Devil's Nose near Sibambe station. And while the mixed train is just reversing, the freight train follows into the first zigzag. And then the day before, I had made a lot of planning how we could come over the river. We were using wooden blankets, or wooden stuff to get all the people over the river Chan Chan, to also get the view from this side. And here, same, the number 53 is reversing to the second zigzag, while the first, the freight train is number 11, came into the first zigzag. Yeah, for me, to fulfill my dream, then I would create this scene where the mixed train is leaving the second zigzag, and the freight is with number 11 is following this. And unfortunately, by that time I had only a standard lens, 50 millimeter, 85, so I no Vario. So I decided to get this, and so I couldn't get the Zibambe below in the picture, but I think it's a lovely scene. And waiting another half an hour or so, when the clouds disappeared, next chance, and a little bit different position here, number second zigzag, and you see the mixed train has just departed while the freight is following. Yeah, this is a scene which a friend, I think is maybe it was Richard Pelham, who sent me this picture. I was here in action with a train conductor. This hat, what I have on my head, is now behind me. It was quite a discussion, but finally he gave me this. Yeah, and 2 years later, I was again my second chance to do a week in Ecuador again, of course, with the unforgettable David Ibbotson. And I was looking for something different to get this shot. It's only a few hundred meters above. You can see Zibambe station down below, but you can't get up here, not alone. Maybe Randall Messner could do it, but not we. And so it is about half an hour bus drive from Alausi to come here. But I think it's worse because now you see all the rails and from the line, the track, how it's coming from the first zigzag to the second. Nariz del Diablo. Another dream become true. In I think in 85, but also in I think in 91, we had a charter with David Ibbotson on the Dorridge on the Cuenca branch. And here you see, I think it could be number 14 on the Cuenca branch. Yes, it's number 14. I'm not a friend of modern traction, but at least as long as it's only as modern as this one, I also like to take some pictures. And here's a typical service train waiting in Azuegas. That's a passenger load for the ride to Sibambe to get connected to the train to Guayaquil. I don't know any idea details about the rail car. In 98, as mentioned, we were also in the north on the Ibarra line, and we had a charter train there with number 14, and we run a pure freight train to make it more authentic. And of course, we invited a lot of local people to make it even more instead of just taking a picture of an empty train. So even the north of that line of the Ibarra line is pretty scenic. Yeah, another dream which we could realize, Chimborazo, Mount Chimborazo, about 6,308 meters high. Mike has to calculate in feet for me. And this mountain is normally has only at least on 300 days, it's covered with clouds. But on this evening, I was lucky and get a glint near Mount Chimborazo with number 53. The weather was very changeable, difficult, as you can see. On here, it was just a 1 minute where we had some sun for about 1 minute. And we just were out of the train because it took water, and it was a chance to get this really dramatic sky in this little station while the service bus just stopped there. Okay, let's go to the next country, Peru. As mentioned before, I think we can go straight. Peru is a huge country, of course, and you see it's not many railways. It's just in the middle and the south. And I think I've prepared another. Okay, you will see we had a charter with David Ibbotson in 85 from Huancayo to Yaucha with a standard gauge locomotive of the central the Peru, and we will visit the Huancayo line. We are in Cusco and go. You will see the charter train of Ibbotson and Dorich on the line towards Machu Picchu, as far as Huracondo, and we spent time at Huaqui and Lake Titicaca. Yeah, in Huancayo, the standard gauge line ends, and the line to Huancavelica is 3 feet, or 3 foot, how you say. And here's the last example of this famous Andes type, number 206. 206, I think it was built by a Peacock in 1937. And you see the dual gauge track here in Huancayo. And here on the way to Yaucha was number 206. But of course, if you would like to see more narrow gauge, okay, no problem. Here we see a lovely product. Henschel 1951 built this engine. And for the Huancavelica line. And you see it in the shed at Huancayo. In 85, we also had a charter train to Iscuchaca, some 30, 40, 50 kilometers southbound with this Dory charter. And it is leaded by 107 or the 107 Hanslet Works has built this in 1936 and is some 5 or 8 kilometers south of Huancayo. On the way back, you see this line. It was very, very spectacular. I really regret that I was too late for this, but at least it was a charter train, we had a chance. The regular train was long gone, diesel, but with our friend David Ibbotson, we could witness this once again here halfway between Escuchaca and Huancayo. Here, Escuchaca Hauptbahnhof. Look, there was a chance to turn the engine. And the typical rural scene of a little station in South America. Here we also stopped again for some checks on the engine in, I think, M. Telleria. And our friend Richard and others could see the master of South America was just relaxed here in the station. Another picture on the return working towards Huancayo. My first visit was in 1982 with my wife, and here we are on the train to Machu Picchu on the Cusco Santa Ana line. Of course, this was also long went diesel. In 85, 3 years later, our incredible successful trip with David, again also to this line. Here you have the narrow gauge station at Cusco with the Cathedral San Pedro in background. And we have locomotive 1 to 4, 1 to 3, I think it's of definitely a Henschel product, I think 1951, I guess. While the other locomotive was still just waiting. People cross the station on the way to the market. No one care about. On my first visit in 82, I spent also with my wife in Cusco a couple of days, and by that time this locomotive 1 to 4 was still doing the trip working in the Huancayo, in the Cusco area between the standard gauge station and the narrow gauge station, and on the dual gauge track you see on the return working. The crew was very friendly, and we get together with my wife, plenty of free rides on the engine or on the tender. Really good fun. Back to 85 with a Doris charter. And here you can see the railway line, the Cusco Santa Ana line has to climb out of Cusco. And it was so steep here, they had built 2 zigzags to leave Cusco to the summit of the line, some 8 kilometers south of, or 6 kilometers south of Cusco. And you can see what the engine has to do here. This is a lower level. Yeah, on the return working, most of the time the weather was difficult, but at least for half an hour we get beautiful sun, and you see 122 and 123 in a beautiful evening light, or some 10 kilometers before Cusco, or some 4 kilometers before the summit. You can imagine after this evening shot, we had to celebrate this day with a couple of beer. Now we had this half an hour section of sun, gave another chance. And here you see again a closer view of the two engines. So let's go to Bolivia. I have to speed up a little bit. I think I'm a little bit behind. Here we see Lake Titicaca, Guaquiza station with a harbor. There's no rails along Lake Titicaca due to the topographic situation. So there's a ferry boat service here for passengers and loading, but no rails are here. We will see again 6 years later a charter here, and we see pictures of my friend Niels Huxtable on the Potosi and on the Bilazon line. In '85, after arrival, we had an overnight trip over Lake Titicaca in this beautiful steam ferry ship, Olanta. And while the boat was unloaded with service load, we had, number 704, the Santa Fe type of the State Railway, just for waiting to load the wagons. 704 is Baldwin product 1942, by the way. Six years later, there was another chance, and it was a good fun. David Ibbotson told me, I have a charter on the Guaqui line, but he didn't expect that I was so mad. So what I've done, I surprised him, and I flew 20 hours from Cologne and Frankfurt to La Paz, stayed 4 hours in Bolivia to get this day, and then flew home to get these impressions. And David Ibbotson was delighted to see me. I could do all the run past for him. He was lucky to have a relaxed day. All this in '91. I have to explain, I work for German Airlines. That's the reason. Otherwise, no one could afford to fly for 20 hours to Bolivia. But as an employer, it was in those days pretty easy. Niels Huxtable, my friend, was in Argentina in the mid-'70s. And here he has sister engine 705, same year built, 1942 Baldwin, on the line from Bilazon northwards to Uyuni in a spectacular line from the Argentine border towards La Paz. And he also saw this stored engine, a famous engine, and Gale sub production. It built in French 5 Lille, 1952. The French Consortium for South America is a Chaplin design, and was gone secondhand from Brazil to Bolivia, 3 examples. I think it's a very impressive meter gauge locomotive. I like this, even if I have never seen it. And you also saw another locomotive, number 822 from Vulcan Foundry, built in '54. It's from the former Ferrocarril Antofagasta in Bolivia section of Bolivia. Also very impressive mountain type. And you also saw this spectacular Potosi line between Potosi and Uyuni. And here was a Hitachi engine. Hitachi built 1958. A couple of engines, some 10, 12, I don't know. I forgot. And he is waiting at Potosi station. And he also gets the departure some kilometers west of Potosi on the steep climb out of the valley. And Niels was also in Guaqui. Number 7 was busy in the mid-70s there to do trip working and shunting the harbor. And by that time, even here you see a picture of the harbor. The Olanta, even 10 years earlier, was already in service and just arrived at the harbor at Guaqui. And the steam cranes were waiting to do some work for offloading. Okay, let's go to Brazil. Brazil, I came first in 79. And here, by that time, of course, nearly 99% of the country was dieselized. But there were one spectacular place that was a Dona Teresa Cristina line, the coal line from the coal fields to the harbor, where the coal is exported or for the local industry in northern Brazil. And it's around here, some, let's say, 100 kilometers south of Florianopolis. And thanks to the efforts from Helmut Dahlhaus, who has written a letter, we got the very last chance, probably the very last use of this articulated locomotive, number 204 in Tubarão, which was fired for Helmut. And lucky I was there now too. And we got it. And you won't believe the engine is built, it's not very old. It's built Baldwin 1950. In the workshop, the massive Texas type under repair and under overhaul, while in the background, a second-hand coal bought engine from Argentina, from the Belgrano Railway, also received some attention in the workshop. They have done all the work, all the overhaul in Tubarão. And here you see this majestic meter gauge engine in Tubarão shed. And for me, this is also one of the highlights in my life, to witness these line twice when they were towing coal trains on the meter gauge of about 2,000 tons. Here near Evita, well, Evita, something with E, sorry, I forgot. And it was really majestic if this engine comes towards you here on the way to the Imbituba harbor, number 313. By the way, they were built by Baldwin and Alco between 1947 and 1940 and 1947, these majestic Texas type. Could be an ideal locomotive for the Harz Querbahn, but maybe there's too many curves. And here you see the Atlantic Ocean, and a coal train arrives in Imbituba, just 1 kilometer before the harbor. Empty stock train leaving Imbituba to bring the empty wagons back to Tubarão and to the different coal mining areas. Here another empty stock train in the evening south of Tubarão. A loaded train, long, endless coal train, passing a nice church here on the way to Tubarão. And in to Tubarão, and the coaling facilities, which the coal come in fairly old style. Here, the Rusanga branch on the coal stage where the train is loaded on this way. Here, another scene of 79, an empty train in the afternoon passing the Atlantic Ocean. By the time when we came first time to the Dona Teresa line, Mr. Cabral, the chief engineer, were also having negotiations to buy more steam locomotives, and he got some 12 engines or so, 10 engines from the Belgrano railway in Argentine, and they were used on my second visit in '84 in use here. They have one single example, number 160, also a Baldwin product. I forget the year, but I guess maybe even in the 40s or so, on an empty train between Imbituba and Capivari. Capivari was a place where the washing plant for the coal. And it's crossing this causeway some 20 kilometers south of Imbituba. My first steam locomotive ever seen in Brazil, also in '79. I had a day in on this line, and there you had still service network of about 25 kilometers, and used Baldwin from 1912 460 and 280 from 1898. Here both in the picture in the shed. And the station was also a lovely station building here. The line was some 300 kilometers north of Rio de Janeiro. Today is even a museum service available there. Okay, another brief view to Uruguay, Paraguay. It's standard gauge line, but it's to complete the picture about steam in South America, I include this here. And the line was in use between Asunción and Encarnación. There were no other lines in the whole country. Here you can see it with a short branch, the so-called Abay branch. And here in Pacocua, at the river Parana, the river was so wide that they used a ferry boat to transfer the coaches, which you will see soon. A few of while coming from Brazil, of the Iguazu Falls, to me, one of the most spectacular waterfalls in the world, because the wideness of this waterfall is unbelievable. And they have some of the best steaks I ever had in my life. Par Ascension station, and here you see a tram. By the time on my first visit in '84, they had already not enough steam engines, so they get second-hand engines from the Urquiza Railway in Argentine and use them regularly. Here, one example, number 83. Here in Asunción. Another Argentine Urquiza locomotive, number 235. And here you see the very interesting, which is not long gone because the whole railway is gone anyway, except 1 kilometer. And here you see the river Parana. And when the through international passenger come, the coaches have to board over the river. And this is done with a steam ferry. And this locomotive number 5, just to pick up a horse on Leslie from 1913, waiting for the arrival of the ferry. And you see the infrastructure of the ferry in background. And now the passengers, coaches of the international Buenos Aires Asunción has arrived, and the local food industry was just waiting to welcome the passenger. Hopefully they are hungry enough. And as you can see here, you have this chain. These depend on how the water level was. They had to use this system with a chain and to tow the wagon from the ferry up to the little station. It's only 200 meters or less, but quite spectacular. And here you see the international train in the streets of Encarnacion with an Urquiza engine 226. By the way, the whole railway is gone now, and there's built a new huge bridge over River Parana, and this ended just at a 1 kilometer line is left. All the rest of the railway is gone. And you see there was also in '84 pretty impressive freight service here with the original locomotives, which were North British 1910, and there were about 14 engines built in 1910, just 10 kilometers north of Encarnacion. Another view of the same train at General Bogeda. I think in '91, we were again, this time with a charter train, because the service train has become less. And of course, what else? A Dutch travel charter visit for 2 weeks to South America, here in the streets of Asunción. The car was not placed. It was it is normal to see an old car. This was just there. And here we are on the mentioned Abai branch with our Dorrit charter with number 102. And the lovely workshop here, one of the early locomotives under repair, an Argentine one and a Paraguayan in the workshop Sapucaia of the Presidente Carlos Antonio Lopez, or former Central Paraguay Railway. And infrastructure, of course, was highly modern. no KI in those days. Everything is handmade. And before we leave the country, even in I think it's 88, still a lot of freight was on the railway. I guess today all is on the road. So we come to Uruguay, just 4 pictures or 3 pictures. Uruguay, you see Montevideo. Today is nearly only 2 or 3 lines of this, all this left, the rest is gone. And it was the Dory charter we went as far as Florida, between Montevideo and Florida. And here our charter train, which is number 119. 119 is a Bayer Peacock example of 1910. A little bit older of this N class. Both are N classes, but this is the oldest type from 1906, also Bayer Peacock, number 88. And here both engines come together in the station north of Montevideo. Okay, we have to speed up. Let's go. As you know, Chile is a long country, about 4,000 kilometers, and about, let's say, 2,500 have railways. The north has mainly meter gauge, and the south of Santiago is broad gauge. The broad gauge is 5 feet 6 inches, by the way. And you will see mainly pictures in the, I go back one, sorry. You will see in Baquedano, which is somewhere here in the north, near Antofagasta, which is a central point. Here you see Baquedano, some meter gauge charter, and then you see service trains in 1979 and 1981 in the south. Yeah, but here's had a Baquedano. It was a crossing point from Antofagasta to Bolivia Railway and the Red Norte in Chile. Of course, what else? Another David charter, this time going from Baquedano some 20 kilometers northbound, leaving Baquedano here. And as you see here, it's no place for a pool party because it's the Atacama Desert, the driest place on Earth, with, let's say, a couple of days in 100 years with rain. And number 3511 here on this train for us, a Baldwin product from 1923. And here you see it's really just sand or stone, nothing else. They still had a couple of nice coaches. This was all the best what they had, but at least enough for us. Also meter gauge. The second modern locomotive I show you is this Winter 2 locomotive, I think 1911 or so, I forgot. Number 101 for the rack and pinion line to Los Andes, to the Argentine border. And this engine was still there just for trip working in the area here. And in use was a ballast train. But of course, all line work is gone. It's long diesel. The even highlight of also this South American trip was to see this Kitzenmeyer locomotive at Los Andes. I think it's built, I think it's the Z class. It was 1909 or 1908, I forgot. And just notice, the front bogie of this engine goes to the acquisition. The rear cylinders just work on the rack engine. To me, a masterpiece of British locomotive construction. Unbelievable. Okay, let's go to the south. This is broad gauge, as I mentioned, 5 feet 6 inch. It was mainly between San Rosendo and Puerto Montt on my first visit, mainly steam worked, while the other 500 kilometers to Santiago was, of course, long gone. And even the branches to Lonquimay or to Villarrica were still steam hauled and steam worked. In 1981, we had a second visit there with Helmut and chased regular freights here on the main line. This engine is 80 class, built from Mitsubishi and Baldwin, or first from Baldwin, later Mitsubishi, between 1923 and 1950s. No, sorry, 1929 and 1953. Incredible mount locomotive. But also these British types were also lovely. And they were built, for example, by Henschel and North British, here leaving at the branch at Villarrica. And you see an active volcano, which was even in use a couple of years ago. Still, this line, of course, long gone, no rails. You won't see anything between Villarrica and Lonquimay. In 79, even it was foreseeable that the steam will phase out in the next 1 or 2 years. And you see that the condition of the locomotive were pretty poor, with a few exceptions. And here an Alco built in 1921 on the turntable in Temuco. Temuco was the largest shed of the whole southern steam area in this year 79. And the Lonquimay branch also saw regular steam every day. And here, I guess is an eastbound working with the 57 class. And here at Curacautin, number 518 was waiting for the crossing with another westbound train. And also people are waiting for this crossing. In 81, the engine was still pretty filthy, but some shortage of diesels just gave us a chance, and a couple of excellent workings returned to steam for the last time with these 80 class. And so you have another 500 kilometers of through working with steam, and mostly with engine change in Osorno and Temuco, here north of Temuco. In the shed in the huge coal tower, which were accustomed to North America, and here this beautiful mountain in the evening light in Temuco, a Mitsubishi product. One of my favorite things in my life also was to get this bridge in steam. And okay, the steam was arranged with the crew before, and it worked. And it's a huge, the highest bridge in Chile, in the Maleco Viaduct, some 20 kilometers before Pua. And another northbound freight. It was a regular feature in those days, at least one train in each direction. Okay, well, we run out of time. So last country, Argentine, then you made it. We see mainly just a brief picture of the Roca Railway in south of Buenos Aires, broad gauge, and then of course the Esquel line here from Engineer Jacobacci to Esquel, and the Rio Turbio coal line, and then we have it. Okay, last run to here in Ibilsen Charter, south of Buenos Aires, was a Vulcan Foundry product. 1948, the 15B class were built. And the famous Esquel branch, I think all of you know this, 402 kilometer long, 75 centimeters. And on our first visit in 87 with Helmut and my wife, they had just one working each week. Thursday out, Friday back, that was all. And with a departure in the afternoon, time was limited for the southbound working. Here, leave south of Engineer Jacobacci was a service train to Esquel. Locomotives, by the way, 17B Baldwin 1922, 25 examples were built, 70H Henschel products, same year, 1922, 50 locomotives were built. And this typical scenery like South Africa with a copy also. Esquel was a workshop, and they changed engine normally from Baldwin, from Engineer to Esquel, to Elmiten was Baldwin operated, and south of Elmiten to Esquel, Henschel territory. I think the dogs were not really impressed about our train. And here you can see the change of engine. Baldwin has arrived, Henschel is just waiting. This is in 91 visit. And here there was a train, a tourist train or between Esquel and Nahuelpan, some 20 kilometers. Here the Henschel 109. Before Esquel in background. Here you see the funny situation. If the train has only a Thursday departure from southbound and a Friday, normally you should not see more than one train in those days. But if the train, this one, is 24 hours delay at Vitalanchao, then you see the Thursday train, and here's a Friday train on Friday near Vitalanchao. And after the teleshot, you see the 50mm lens shot, the Friday train. Yeah, the area in Patagonia is not very much populated, and you could easily see some rural impressions here at Elmiten after the arrival of a southbound train. Once again, a charter with David Ibbotson. Here, near now, I forgot the name. No, sorry, north of Noa Kinko, northbound working, and the snow-capped mountain in the background. The southbound working close to Elmiten. Okay, the last few pictures, and then we made it. And you see the most southerly railway of the world apart from this Mickey Mouse railway or this very little one, tourist railway in Ushuaia, but this was a 75mm lens, 230 or kilometer long, from the Rio Turbio mines to the harbor at Rio Gallegos. They have a 6-day operation, and Sunday was no trains. My wife was delighted to see one of the largest last glacier in the world, which is still growing. Normally all others are losing, but this one, Lago Argentino, was very impressive. But the reason was, of course, not the tourists. The reason was these 210-2, and these locomotives are built 101 to 120 for Mitsubishi in 1956 and 1963. And here you see the old harbor near the shed. Empty stock wagons, some 30 kilometers west of Rio Gallegos. And this is a typical view of Patagonia. There's nearly nothing. And a loaded train about 1,500 tons. Just imagine, on 75 centimeters. And the other shed and also workshop at Rio Turbio in the coal fields area. This dog was also not very impressed about the activity. And you see in the background, the coal is coming from, was in the hill. This is not open cast. This was coming from below in the mountains. One of the earlier locomotives, and not rebuilt, locomotive 106. Near El Turbio on approach, was an empty train, while a loaded coal train will wait for the arrival of 106, and here you see 113, and these engines were improved by the famous El Deporter with gas producer system and so on, but it takes too long to explain this. Here again in El Turbio. A picture of what my wife has taken at this river, a side view from empty stock train, while the husband takes this view of 101. Another view of the empty stock arrival at El Turbio, coming from Rio Gallegos, empty train. A loaded train, a shorter one, around El Turbio. A crossing between 107 and 101. El Turbio. And finally, 3 or 4 pictures from the Esquel line, and then we made it. My friend Thomas Rath was there in 2015 with Bernd Seiler, and he got also these 3 lovely pictures with a snow-capped mountain. Here on the dual gauge, the line is broad gauge line to Bariloche, and for some 8 kilometers, the narrow gauge share the track. Cerro Mesa, spectacular view. This is what you can do if you have a charter train, and not only one train per week. Then of course you get more variety, what we could not do in the 80s. So I hope you are still alive and not fall to sleep already. Thank you for your impressions, dear friends.
Thanks very much, Gunter. That was fantastic. Really enjoyed it. And I have to say, you are quite the photographer, and I'd say photo processor. You know your way around probably the photo processing, Photoshop to
Yes.
present them so well. That was really interesting. So we really do appreciate you going to the trouble of putting that on for us tonight. And I think I might bother you sometime in the next few days about maybe another one next year. I'm sure you've got plenty of other images tucked away there that you could share with us. But I'll leave that to then rather than put you on the spot now.
It's always a pleasure. If
Yeah.
you ever, and I can come back to you, no problem.
Great, good. You're in, so it's one. So thank you for that. Gentlemen, and ladies, I'm not sure we've got any ladies tonight, but any questions or comments that you'd like to make for Gunter, to Gunter?
A really great.
We've got a sound problem. Nope. Well, good. We didn't hear that. Whoever it was, you've disappeared on us.
It was me, Norman Drake in Perth.
Right, Norman.
Thank you, Gunter. Really fantastic, great selection, and I really was impressed by all your work. So thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. It's an honor for me to share my highlights with many friends around the world.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Norman. Anyone else there?
Oh dear. All right, I was surprised by the very dark smoke in those earlier pictures in the first sort of half of your presentation. The thick black smoke was quite incredible. Any reasons why?
Yeah, sometimes, as you know, on my trips, for example, also on the David Ibbotson trips, we have also the British like, for example, a lot of smoke, and it's nice. Sometimes you need the black smoke. Okay, sometimes it's too much. I agree, but I think it's greater from the northern Europe was not there by that time.
Thank you.
Anyone else there at all? I was fascinated by the range of gauges of the railways there. I had my converter going full bore, working out what they were in feet and inches, even though we're metric here. I still think of them in that way, but fascinating array.
But for example, in the Andes, many lines could not build to standard gauge or broad gauge. It would be too expensive. I think you have the same in Australia.
Yeah.
White Queensland was not standard gauge, and of course it was maybe more practical. Or
yeah, that's right. Okay. Anyone else? Sorry, Gunter.
So it's interesting to see the same in India. If you're on my visits first visit in 1981, so there's so much meter gauge and narrow gauge. And if you look on the map today in India, 99% of all services is now broad gauge, and there's hardly any meter gauge line left. So it's
amazing stuff. Huge country. Okay, anyone else want to make any comments or questions? Ask questions?
Oh dear.
No.
Whoa.
Well, okay. Was anyone else there? No. Okay. All right. Look, we'll just have a look at what's come through on the all the messages and the like coming down. Rod Smith's tucking into a steak at a bistro. Thanks for letting us know that, Rod. what's this one here from John Carr? Good to see the practice continue from the opening day of the Stockton and Darlington. Okay. I wonder if the recreation of the opening train 27th of the, okay. Couple of suggestions that a drone would have been handy to take along, Gunter, but you wouldn't have known what one was back in those days, I'm sure. Lots of compliments for you about your photographs. And there's another comment from Rod Smith. He covered the HH, whichever that one was, in 1984. Loco hauled one way, rail motor the other. A gauge conversion program was aborted. The line was reactivated on 3 foot. There you go. And there's another one from Steve D. There is a Potosi. He's given us a pronunciation guide there. A Potosi in Wisconsin with a brewery and a brewery museum. Well, that combines just about everything necessary for an enjoyable life in the one spot. So must add that on to the bucket list. Okay. Rod's mentioned that Atlanta is now run by the Orient Express company and very upmarket. Lots of compliments about your photographs. What's this one? Chris Squire, he mentions that he travelled from Encarnacion, I think that right? Encarnacion to Ascension.
Encarnacion, yeah, I don't know.
Encarnacion, yeah,
Yes.
okay. On the steam haul train in 1989. I think he's saying nothing touristy about it. It was the transport, a memorable trip. And Rod mentions about one of the bridges that I think this was the one where you had a ferry involved and it was replaced later by a bridge and the railway closed. I think that's what.
Yes, this is the river, the river Parana.
Yeah.
And today it's also this ferry is long gone.
Yeah.
And it's just a bridge coming from Argentine, 1 kilometer, and that's the end. And all the other. It's a mixed road and railway bridge now.
What's the 1 kilometer that's remaining used for, or is it just sitting there?
It's just bringing the lorries, and then there's a new railway yard, a small one built, where everything is reloaded from rail to
road.
To road.
Yep. Well, Rod mentions that the bridge was under construction over 84, 85, and the Argentine line was standard gauge, as was Paraguay. The bridge was finished, and the Paraguay line was closed. Well, that's what you were saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Then he mentions that despite using his best Spanish for a ride on RT, he failed. They had to chase it with a bus. Lots more positive, very complimentary statements about your photographs, and they are excellent. They really are. Oh yeah, there's been a couple of mentions, as you know, I was pretty impressed by it too the other night, Gunter, about your vast model railway collection behind you. And I can say to the Aussies, he's got an AD60 up there. So how about that? So he's got I don't know how he gets away with it at home, but he has.
Yeah, that's because when my son came, I had to get the railway off, my model railway. So a few examples left in the background. And
yeah. And Steve D's gone off to sleep. It's 4:21 in the morning there. To toughen up, it should be here. And I think that's it from the chat box, Gunter. So before I close off, one last chance if anyone wants to ask something or make a comment.
Ja, vielen Dank,
Sorry?
Gunter. Sehr gut.
Ja, sehr gerne. immer wieder. Ich freue mich auch auf die nächsten Male,
gotta-
euch in England zu
I have to
sehen.
say that's the worst English I've ever heard in my life. I don't understand a word.
I thought you were in Germany. Maybe you should have learned a little bit.
I work
Oh,
on
yeah.
Puffing Billy on a Wednesday. I'm a station master there, and I think, is it Welcome?
Ja,
Is
du
that good
kannst,
enough?
yeah, you can say willkommen bei
Yeah.
Puffing Billy.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's the other than sprechen Sie Deutsch?
Yeah.
That's it. So I don't have much German at all. Okay. All right. Well, I think we'll close it off there, Gunter. Look, once again, I really enjoyed that, and we had a really good turn up tonight. So that's a good sign of a lot of interest. And as many people have said, it wasn't just an interesting range of subjects that you covered. You also gave us a wonderful collection of meticulously photographed and processed, lovely photos. And so thanks so much for everything you do. And again, once again, thank you for projecting all those things to the other side of the world down below to us and around the world to other places too. So we certainly had people from the US, the UK, Germany and Australia at least. No, and New Zealand. I know we've got one Kiwi with us tonight too. So you've had quite an international audience as well. So everyone, if you could just, he won't be able to see you, but give him a clap and a wave. So.
Well done.
Dankeschön. And dear friends, a last word to mention. Okay, today Photoshop is I think Derek Phillips mentions this word. Photoshop is a man's best friend.
Oh,
and
yes.
The reason is like some friends have started all their pictures with Kodachrome. Then these guys were lucky. But when I grew up, you can imagine when I first time went to Turkey, I was just 18 years old. I had no money for Turkey, to go to Turkey and to buy Kodak. So we bought Aqua CD18. And these films now, as you know, I have not to tell you, for men in the world,
Yes.
is losing. So, but with Photoshop, you can really save a lot. This is to be mentioned.
Yep. No, I'm a great fan of it. I use it nearly every day, really. All right. Look, thanks again, Gunter, and we will be in touch.
Of course.
And thanks everyone for coming along tonight. And I'd appreciate if you'd have a think about maybe you'd like to present something for us. It doesn't have to be of the superb quality of imagery that Gunter has at all. That's wonderful, but it's what you're showing us. It's the big thing. If it's interesting, particularly if it's quirky, that's always good. Quirky narrow gauge is a big hit. But if you've got something, then please, we'd love to hear from you. You'll have plenty of time to get ready for it. So we want to really get them all sorted out for next year. And one last thing again is for those of you who are with us tonight who aren't members, have a think about it. It is very inexpensive and we'd love to have you with us. So good night, everyone, and thanks for coming.
Good night. Down under and beyond.
Good morning, should I say?
Ja, guten Morgen. Noch ein Kaffee. Jetzt ein Kaffee für mich.
Mike, may I just say thank you again to your organisation in Australia for sending me the invitation to join. I know Gunter from presentations he's done to the Locomotive Club of Great Britain and Continental Railway Circle. You can guarantee a top quality presentation from Gunter. It's good. And I really enjoyed this morning. Thank you very much indeed.
I was actually forewarned that would be the case. So he didn't let us down one bit. So thank you very much, Bob, for mentioning that.
Dankeschön, Bob.
Ooh, very
Dank.
impressive. And for those who are in Europe right now, in the US, and are freezing your ears off, I think we got 38 degrees where I live here today, but with a howling wind. It wasn't a nice day, but it was hot. So see you all again sometime. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Good night.
A popular goal for many, but sometimes over-exercising can do more damage than good.
We see people trying to do quick fixes and setting sort of audacious short-term health goals.
Co-worker James Smith has been exercising his whole life. A competitive swimmer